What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we are breaking down week 16 of fantasy hockey, and what that means is we're going to be looking at the best and worst schedules, the streamers that help you maximize your games, and also we're going to be looking at the must-add players that could be sitting on your waiver wire. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. Just one thing, guys, make sure you follow me on Twitter/X at FIREDUP Fantasy. I post a lot of content on there, a lot of up-to-date information, and also some exclusive content that you might not see on my YouTube channel. At FIREDUP Fantasy, guys, give me a follow. The first thing I'm going to be talking about is must-add forwards. The first player we have on this list is Jeff Skinner. He is returning from his injury likely this week. He's been fantastic this season, and he still has the ability to have some big nights and some big weeks. So if you got dropped, please take a look at him. Next up, we got Owen Tippett of the Philadelphia Flyers. This guy's been an absolute unit as of late. He's getting more minutes. He's on the first-line power play. We know he puts up amazing shots and hits. Yes, he is currently injured, but it's only day-to-day, so not a long-term injury. So, yeah, pretty obvious, guys. Add Owen Tippett if he is somehow available. Next up, we got Nazem Kadri of the Calgary Flames. Kadri has played incredible as of late, and what's really impressive about Kadri is how many shots he's been taking, guys. If your league heavily values shots or you're in a category league, this guy's an absolute unit. I do think he will cool down because the last, 2 weeks have been pretty unsustainable in terms of his production. But regardless, he's on the first line power play. He's on the first line. He's shooting a ton. This is what we want in fantasy. So if Kadri is available somehow, please pick him up. Next, we got Ryan O'Reilly. Ryan O'Reilly, this isn't a new ad because O'Reilly's been great the entire year, but I do think his percentage on Yahoo is still a little bit disrespectful. Some people might not pick him up because of his name value. Maybe those are just leagues that are dead that haven't picked up Ryan O'Reilly. But if he is available, please take a look at him. First line power play. Great on the power play this year. Like, he has 19 power play points. And yeah, this one is a no-brainer. Next, we got Igor Sharangovich of the Calgary Flames. I don't got a lot to say about Sharangovich because I've talked about him so much already. But what I will say is he's on the first line. He's on the first line power play. He's getting 19 to 20 minutes a game, shooting the puck a ton, scoring a lot of goals. This one's a no-brainer, guys. Pick up Sharangovich. Next up, we got Boone Jenner. He broke his jaw, but he's back now. He's healthy. And the good thing about Boone Jenner is in fantasy is that he puts up amazing peripherals, amazing shots and hits. He also is a very good goal scorer, so he just covers all the categories that you need. In a points league that values shots, hits, and blocks, you need to pick this guy up. I don't care what size your league is. This guy's a must-roster player in those type of leagues. If you're just in a normal points league that doesn't heavily value peripherals, I still would suggest taking a look at Boone Jenner because he's been very solid. Right now, he's not on the first-line power play, and he's not on the first line, but I do expect him to get back on the first-line power play soon, and I expect him to be pretty good for the rest of the year. Next up, we got Brian Rust of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Brian Rust has been very good this year. If you're looking at his point totals, he's almost a point-per-game player. With Ryan Rust, he's back on the first-line power play. He's in the top 6, and he has the ability to have some big nights and some big weeks. So with Rust, this is a no-brainer to me. Pick him up before it's too late. Next up, we got Jonathan Drouin of the Colorado Avalanche. He's still in the first line with McKinnon and Rantanen, and he's still on the first-line power play. He is getting heavy minutes, and we do not have to worry about him getting taken off this first-line power play now with Nichushkin in the player assistance program. Lehkonen is back, but they've already said they're going to keep Drouin on the first line for now. So, yeah, Drouin is still a must-add player, and I think he's going to be really good long-term. Next, we got Joel Farabee of the Philadelphia Flyers. Farabee has played really good in the last couple of weeks. He's on the first-line power play. He's getting top 6 minutes. So, yeah, this is a no-brainer to me. Farabee playing really good, breaking out, young player. Definitely a great pickup. Next up, we got Josh Norris of the Ottawa Senators. I'm still high on Josh Norris, guys. I think he's super underrated. I think his roster percentage is way too low on Yahoo. And what I want to say about Josh Norris is he has a lot of upside, right? We saw 2 years ago, the last full season that he played in, he was on pace for over 40 goals. He is on a team that I think should bounce back. He's probably going to be on the first-line power play. He was second-line power play the first game that he just returned in, but he will be back on that first unit. He takes a lot of shots. He has a goal-scoring ability, so this is a no-brainer to me. Josh Norris, super underrated. Pick him up, and I think he will bounce back. Next up, we got Sean Couturier of the Philadelphia Flyers. Couturier has been great this year. He's on the first line. He's on the first-line power play. He's back, and he's healthy. And he's taking a lot of shots as well, which we love to see in fantasy. In general, guys, Couturier is super underrated. I know he only has center eligibility, but he could be available in your league, and I think he is a great pickup. Next up, we got Artturi Lehkonen of the Colorado Avalanche. We just learned that Lehkonen is returning in the next game, and I do think there's a very good chance that they're going to put him on the first-line power play. We have Nichushkin out in the player assistance program, so we're likely going to have a first-line power play of Drouin, McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, and Lehkonen. We know how valuable the Colorado Avalanche first-line power play spot is, so I think Lehkonen is a great pickup. Next up, we got two Washington Capitals forwards. We have TJ Oshie. He's on the first line with Dylan Strome and Max Pacioretty. That line has played really well, so I expect them to keep them together. And he's also on the first-line power play. Ovechkin is back and healthy, and they still have Oshie on the first-line power play, which is really good news. Oshie is obviously a Band-Aid, so hopefully he can stay healthy, but ride out the hot hand and see if it works out. Then we got Max Pacioretty. He's also on the first line in the first-line power play. Pacioretty, obviously, he's been very injury-prone in the last 2 years, but there is a lot of upside with Pacioretty. He takes a lot of shots, he has good peripherals, and I think we're going to see his deployment get better and better as the season progresses. He's on the first-line power play with Ovechkin, which I think has a lot of upside. And I think Pacioretty is a great pickup. Next up, we got part 2 of new forward adds. We have Elias Lindholm. The Flames are buzzing. He's on the first line in the first-line power play. He has a very low shooting percentage, so I do expect him to bounce back. And I think in general, Lindholm is a very underrated pickup in fantasy. Next, we got Sam Bennett of the Florida Panthers. Bennett is super underrated in my opinion if you're looking at his roster percentage. He puts up good shots. He puts up good hits. He's in the top 6 with Makachuk and Carter Verhaeghe on that second line. And even though he's not on the first-line power play, he still gets a decent amount of power play time. So pick up Sam Bennett, and I think it will pay off. Next, we got Charlie Coyle of the Boston Bruins. He has taken the first-line spot, and he's on the first-line power play now. He's playing really good. He's on pace for something like 28 goals, 60-plus points. They've been mixing up, the first line with Geekie and Zaka and obviously Coyle now. But it looks like Coyle has taken that spot and is probably going to stay with this deployment. I think Coyle's a great long-term add unless the Bruins go out and trade for a center. So please take a look at Charlie Coyle. Next, we got Gustav Nyquist of the Nashville Predators. This one's pretty obvious, guys. Nyquist has played great all season long, but I thought I'd include him because his roster percentage is still pretty low on Yahoo. He's on the first line. He's on the first-line power play. And I think he's a really solid pickup. Next up, we got Logan Couture of the San Jose Sharks. He is finally healthy. He played in his first game last night, putting up 1 assist. He's in the top 6. He's on the first-line power play. And we know from the last couple of seasons that he puts up great peripherals. So, please take a look at Logan Couture if he is available. Next, we got Dawson Mercer of the New Jersey Devils. Mercer hasn't played the best, but with Jack Hughes out week to week, Mercer is in the top 6 and on the first-line power play. Obviously, Mercer, I'm not having the highest expectations of him, but with this deployment, it's hard not to pick him up, see if he's available, and he could pay off. Next, we got Chandler Stevenson of the Vegas Golden Knights. With William Karlsson and Jack Eichel out week to week, Stevenson is now on the first line and the first-line power play. He's bouncing back a bit. He's putting up some points, and I think he's a really good add in the short term. Next up, we got Colton Sissons of the Nashville Predators. With Colton Sissons, he's been great all season long. He's on the second line. He's on the first-line power play. He puts up really good peripherals. There's not much else to say, guys. Sissons is a very solid pickup, so if he is available in your league, I think you should take a look at him. Next up, we got Cole Sillinger of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Sillinger is a young player that could be breaking out. He had a hat trick the other night. In the last 2 weeks, he's putting up a decent amount of points. He's taking a ton of shots. Obviously, when Boone Jenner comes back, you could see these lines get changed. You could see Sillinger go back to the third line and the second line power play. But for now, with this deployment and the amount of shots that we're seeing him take, I think Sillinger is a very sneaky pickup. Next up, we got Igor Chinakhov of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Similar to Sillinger, he's on the first line and the first line power play, and he's shooting the puck a ton. With Chinakhov, he has such a low roster percentage, so you definitely want to take a look at him, especially in a deeper league where it's hard to find value on the waiver wire. Like I said, with Sillinger, Boone Jenner is back, and they could mix up the lines. They could take one of these guys off the first-line power play. But for now, ride the hot hand and see if it works out. Next up, we got Morgan Frost of the Philadelphia Flyers. Frost still has inconsistent minutes, but lately he's been producing at a very elite level. I think he has like 8 or 9 points in the last 8 games. And what we're seeing with Frost is that he's starting to get his confidence back, right? Tortorella has scratched him a handful of times this season, but it looks like after meeting with him in his office, they had a talk, they understand each other, and this could be really good news for Frost long term. If we remember with Frost last year, he led the Flyers in even strength points. He had something like 40 points in the last 50 games. He was really good. So there is a chance that Frost could find his mojo once again and have a similar type of second half of the year. We'll see what happens, but in a deeper league, Frost could be a fantastic pickup. Next up, we got Alexis Lafreniere of the New York Rangers. Obviously, his ceiling is capped because he's not on the first line power play, but there's two very good signs that I'm seeing with Lafreniere's game. The first sign is that he's shooting the puck a ton. He almost has doubled his shot rate from last season. And also, the second reason is that he's getting top line minutes. If you're looking at his average ice time per game, it's 17 minutes and 20 seconds. Compared to last season, it was only 15 minutes and 13 seconds. So in general, I think these two things are good signs, and he could be a good pickup. Moving on, we have part 3 of must-add forwards. The first player on this list is Wyatt Johnston of the Dallas Stars, and the reason that he's a must-add player is that he was moved up to the first line with Rupe Hintz and Jason Robertson. Could be a good pickup. Next up, we got Ross Colton of the Colorado Avalanche. Currently, Colton is centering that second line, and he's getting pretty solid minutes. He puts up good peripherals, and in general, if he stays in this top 6, he should have value long term. Next, we got Dylan Guenther of the Arizona Coyotes. Guenther was called up from the AHL, and this was expected to be short term. This was due to Jason Zucker's suspension. However, they found that he was playing really good up with the team, and they decided to keep him there. So with Guenther, we're seeing him in the top 6. He's on the first line power play. He's shooting the puck a decent amount. So in a deeper league where it's hard to find value on the waiver wire, Guenther could be a fantastic add. Next, we got Warren Foegele of the Edmonton Oilers. With Foegele, he's playing really well as of late, and that is largely due to him being a staple on that second line with Leon Draisaitl. He's shooting the puck a ton, and as long as he stays on the second line with Draisaitl, he should have good value long term. Next, we got Juraj Slafkovsky of the Montreal Canadiens. With Slafkovsky, we're actually seeing him produce a decent amount in the last couple of weeks. He's still on the first line. He's on the first line power play. He has good minutes, and you could see him slowly get better as the season progresses. So, yeah, take a look at Slafkovsky in a deeper league, and it could pay off. Next up, we got Ridley Greig of the Ottawa Senators. Greig was briefly centering the first line, but he is now bumped down to the second line. He's playing on the wing instead of the center. But as long as he's in the top 6, he has value. So take a look at him in a deeper league, and it could be a decent pickup. Next, we got Kaapo Kakko. He was injured for quite a bit, but he just came back recently. He's currently on the first line with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider. And I think that Kakko is going to bounce back. Last season, he actually played really good despite very little minutes. He averaged under 14 minutes per game. So I think there's still potential with Kaapo Kakko, and hopefully if he stays in this first line, he could start producing. Next, we got Adam Lowry of the Winnipeg Jets. This is definitely a short-term ad. I'm only including him on this list because Mark Scheifele is out with an injury. Scheifele is out day-to-day, but his injury is taking a little bit longer than they initially expected, so Lowry is currently on the first line and the first line power play. So yeah, like I said, short-term ad, pick him up for this week, and it could pay off. Next up, we got Nicholas Roy of the Vegas Golden Knights. With Eichel and William Karlsson out, Nicholas Roy is in the top 6. So again, a short-term ad for the next couple of weeks. Next up, we got Pontus Holmberg of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's currently on line 1 with Austin Matthews and Mitchell Marner. Still getting very low minutes, but he's producing on this line, and there's a chance that they could stick with it for the short term. Next up, we got Pavel Doroveyev of the Vegas Golden Knights. I may be butchering that pronunciation, but with Pavel, he's on the first line and the first line power play currently, which is very good. He's still getting low minutes, which we don't love to see, but he's producing decently, and he has improved deployment with some of the injuries that they face. So in the short term, take a look at him. Lastly, we got Shane Pinto of the Ottawa Senators. Obviously, with Pinto, there's a chance that he's stuck on the third line for the rest of the season, but in a deeper league where it's hard to find value on the waiver wire, he could be a pretty good pickup. Pinto was great last year as a rookie, and I do think he's talented. He's probably going to be pretty rusty, but yeah, we'll just have to see how it plays out. Moving on, we have must-add defensemen. A lot of these defensemen were in last week's video and probably the last couple of weeks, but I will still include them because they are still must-add defensemen. The first defenseman is obviously Brock Faber of the Minnesota Wild. With Jared Spurgeon out long-term, he's out for the rest of the season. Brock Faber basically has no competition for the first-line power play spot. He's playing amazing minutes. He's putting up great peripherals, and I think he's a very talented young defenseman. So if Brock Faber is somehow available and you need a defenseman, pick him up before it's too late. Next up, we have Sean Durzi of the Arizona Coyotes. The only reason he's on this list is because his roster percentage on Yahoo is pretty disrespectful, in my opinion. He's super underrated. He gets a lot of power play time. He puts up good peripherals. And I do think he's going to be great for the rest of the season. Next, we got Thomas Chabot of the Ottawa Senators. Obviously, the Senators have been a dumpster fire this season, but Chabot is looking like he's going to be on the first-line power play for the rest of the year. And I do think that the Sens could bounce back. Their power play should be better, and Chabot should start producing. So if you need a defenseman, Chabot could pay off. Next, we got Justin Falk of the St. Louis Blues. Falk is just very solid all around. He puts up good shots, blocks, and hits. He can produce. He is getting more time on the first-line power play, which we love to see. And he could have been dropped because he was injured for quite a bit. So, yeah, please take a look at Justin Falk. Next, we got Seth Jones of the Chicago Blackhawks. And I understand that the Blackhawks on paper are one of the worst teams in the NHL, if not the worst. But we have to acknowledge that he's getting top pairing minutes. He's on the first-line power play, and he puts up very solid peripherals. If you need a defenseman that can fill those categories, Seth Jones is your guy. Moving down this list, we have Samuel Girard. His minutes aren't the best, but he's still solid and has the ability to put up some points, so take a look at him. We also got Jamie Drysdale. His minutes aren't the best either. I think he still has to take some time to fit into this Flyer system. However, I do think there's long-term potential with Drysdale. He's a very good skater. He's very talented offensively. And I think there's a good chance that he finds himself on the first-line power play. Next, we got Thomas Harley, and this is a short-term ad. Mira Heiskanen is out, but he will be returning soon. We got some good news on Heiskanen on the injury front. So for now, Harley is on the first-line power play, but he will only be good for about a week or two. Next, we got Alec Martinez of the Vegas Golden Knights, and the reason that he's a must-add defenseman is that he was recently bumped up to the first-line power play. Obviously, with some of the injuries that they have, this power play isn't going to be great, but it's rare to find defensemen on the first-line power play, so please take a look at him. With Shea Theodore coming back in a couple of weeks, this is definitely a short-term ad, but yeah, for the next couple of weeks, keep him on your roster and then drop him when Shea Theodore returns. Next, we got Adam Boqvist of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Similar to Martinez and Harley, this is a short-term play. He's on the first line with Zach Werenski out, but Werenski is back skating and traveling with them on their road trip. So this is only going to be a play for about a week or two. Lastly, we got Igor Zamula of the Philadelphia Flyers. I do think Drysdale will eventually take over the first-line power play, but who knows? As I'm recording this, Zamula has 2 goals, including 1 on the power play, and he's been on there for a couple of weeks now. So, doesn't have the best even strength minutes, but, defensemen on the first line power play are pretty solid. So take a look at them. Moving on, we have the must-add goalies that could be sitting on your waiver wire. The first goalie on this list is Philip Gustafsson of the Minnesota Wild. And I understand that Gustafsson hasn't been the greatest since he returned from injury, but I do think that he's going to be pretty good long-term. Fleury has recently been injured. I think he has a concussion. So, Gustafsson is going to start the majority of the games until Fleury comes back. But also, I think down the stretch, Gustafsson is going to start the majority of the games. So, Gustafsson, before he was injured, he went on a really good stretch. The Wild are not the best team, but they will win games, and Gustafsson will have some really good weeks. So, please take a look at him. Next, we got Samuel Ersson of the Philadelphia Flyers. This guy's been one of the best goalies in the NHL. He's outplaying Carter Hart. He's stealing starts from Carter Hart, and he could be really good long-term. So, please add him before it's too late. Next, we got Charlie Lindgren of the Washington Capitals. He's outplaying Kemper. He's starting more games than Kemper. He's been one of the best NHL goalies this season. And this one's a no-brainer, guys. Add him before it's too late. Next, we got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen of the Buffalo Sabres. He stole the net once again. He's been playing really good. And I think he's going to start the majority of the games for the rest of the season. So if you need a goalie with a low roster percentage, take a look at him. Next, we got Samuel Montembeault of the Montreal Canadiens. I understand he let in 8 goals against the Boston Bruins, and he cost people their fantasy weeks potentially. But we do have to look at the, long-term potential with Sam Montembeault. In the last couple of weeks, he's been getting a lot of starts. He's been playing well, other than the Bruins game. And there is a chance that he starts the majority of the games for the rest of the year. So, he has a low roster percentage on Yahoo, and he could pay off. Take a look at him if you need a goalie and see if it works out. Next up, we got Jonas Korpisalo of the Ottawa Senators. I understand Korpisalo has been terrible this year, but if you're looking at the last couple of games, he's been playing pretty good. Forsberg is still on the LTIR, and I do think that the Senators are going to bounce back. So use that information how you will. I think if the Sens do bounce back and Korpisalo is starting the majority of the games, he could be a pretty good pickup. So please take a look at him. Next, we got Antti Ranta of the Carolina Hurricanes. Kochetkov is out with a concussion, and obviously Freddie Anderson has been out for a couple of months now. So, Ranta is back to starting the majority of the games in the short term. We'll see what happens with Kochetkov, but for the next couple of weeks, Ranta could be a great pickup. Next, we got Alex Line of the Detroit Red Wings. With Husso still out, he's not ready to return. Line has been starting the majority of the games, and he's played pretty well. So please take a look at him, and it could pay off. Next, we got David Rittich of the Los Angeles Kings. He is outplaying Cam Talbot, and he's also stealing starts from Cam Talbot. It's looking like that Rittich might start 3 games in a row. I just saw a quote from their head coach that they're looking to start him on Monday. So, this could be a huge development for the Los Angeles Kings, and you got to pay close attention to it. Next, we got Elvis Merzlikins of the Columbus Blue Jackets. A little bit of a weird situation there when they kind of relegated him to the third string goalie, but they put Spencer Martin on waivers, and Mers is back to starting the majority of the games. The Blue Jackets are obviously one of the worst teams in the league, but in a points league that value saves, he could be a pretty good option. Next, we got Peter Mrazek of the Chicago Blackhawks. I wouldn't suggest him long-term, but lately he's been playing really good, and in a deeper league, he could be a fantastic option. Next, we got Nico Daws of the New Jersey Devils. With Nico Daws, the Devils aren't the greatest team, but he is starting games, he is playing solid, and there is a chance that he could steal the net from Vitek Vanacek. Moving on, we got some key injury updates. We have Jack Hughes still week to week. He's not close to returning. He's probably going to return after the All-Star break, so a little bit of a tough blow, but you could buy low on Jack Hughes right now and potentially get a good deal. Next, we got Jack Eichel. We learned that he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. He had a surgery. I think it was a lower body surgery. So 4 to 6 weeks out. Hopefully it doesn't last longer than that. Next, we got Alexander Barkov. He's currently day-to-day. We are told it is nothing serious. It's kind of a day-to-day situation. See how he feels. He should be back sometime this week. Next, we got Mark Scheifele. This is also a day-to-day situation. I will say that they did expect him to be back a little bit earlier. It's taken longer than expected. Either way, they're saying it's not serious and it's kind of a day-to-day feel-it-out situation. So, he should be back in about a week or less. Next, we got Miro Heiskanen of the Dallas Stars. We learned that he's skating and traveling with the team. We got some good news. He should be returning soon, so keep an eye out for that. Then we got Joseph Woll. We don't really have a timeline with Joseph Woll, but he is skating and traveling with the team, which is a good sign. Next, we got Adin Hill. He is close to returning. He should be returning this week potentially. So if he did get dropped, take a look at him. And make sure you set your lineups when he does return. Next, we got Jeff Skinner of the Buffalo Sabres. He was just upgraded day to day. He should be back sometime this week. That should help the Buffalo Sabres. And he's been great this year. So if he got dropped, pick him up. Next, we got Mikko Sergachev. He is not expected to be back until after the All-Star break. Then we got Arturi Lehkonen. He's very close to returning. He should be returning in the next game, actually. That's the report that we heard. He has been a full participant in practice, and I think he's a great pickup. Next, we got Victor Arvidsson of the Los Angeles Kings. We learned that he skated in a non-contact jersey on the 18th, and we don't really have a timeline for Arvidsson, but there is a chance that he's back in a month or two. So he could be a good IR stash in the near future. Next, we got Patrick Laine and Zach Rowinski. They're both skating with the team. They're going to travel on the upcoming road trip. We don't know if they are going to play, but this is a very good sign. So they could be great pickups. Next, we got Shea Theodore of the Vegas Golden Knights. He's been out for a couple of months now, but we just got news that he will be back in about 3 to 4 weeks. Theodore was fantastic early on in the season. So hopefully when he comes back, he can start playing like that once again. Moving on, we got some more injury updates. Jacob Markstrom still day-to-day. He is skating, which is good news. He should be back soon. Vince Dunn, he has an undisclosed injury, but it is deemed day-to-day, so nothing serious. Patrick Kane, also day-to-day. Nothing serious. We don't really know a lot about his injury yet. Barrett Hayden, he is skating with the team. He should be back sometime in February, probably after the All-Star break. We have Nick Schmaltz. He's day-to-day. Nothing serious, but yeah, he's been kind of injury prone this year in terms of the day-to-day injuries. Lastly, we got Owen Tippett. He was injured in the last game. Tippett has been so good lately, so a little bit scary, but We just saw that he was skating today, didn't play in the game against Ottawa, but very good sign that he is skating. He is deemed day to day. So let's talk about the schedule, guys. These are the teams with the most games and off nights for this week. The number one team is undoubtedly the Los Angeles Kings. They have 4 games and 4 off nights with a very good opponent goals against average, 3.19 opponent goals against average. The players on this team should do pretty good, and there's some great streaming options that I will get into a little bit later. Then we got more good options. We got the Florida Panthers and the St. Louis Blues, both having 4 games and 3 off nights this week. The Blues don't have the best opponent goals against average, but still, the players on their team will be good for maximizing your games. Next, we got the Seattle Kraken. They don't play 4 games, they play 3 games, but all of them are off nights. They have a great opponent goals against average, and the players on the Kraken could be very good for maximizing your games. Moving down, we have teams that play 4 games and 2 off nights. We have the Vegas Golden Knights, the Boston Bruins, the Arizona Coyotes, and the Chicago Blackhawks. The Vegas Golden Knights have a pretty good opponent goals against average. Can't say the same for the Bruins, the Coyotes, and the Blackhawks, but still, some of the players on these teams could be good streaming options. Then we have some other teams. We have the Blue Jackets that play 4 games and 1 off night. And then we have the Canucks, the Winnipeg Jets, and the Pittsburgh Penguins having 3 games and 2 off nights. Now, in terms of the light versus heavy nights, I do want to say that some nights like Tuesday and Thursday are moderately heavy nights. So there is a chance you have open roster spots on these nights. If that is the case, then off nights won't mean as much for you, so make sure you check your schedule. Moving on, we have the teams with the least amount of games this week. We have 2 teams that only play twice, which is not good for maximizing your games, and these teams are the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Colorado Avalanche. If you have a lot of players on these teams, you might just have to suck it up. It could cost you your week. You're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Moving on, we have the teams with the easiest opponent record. We have the Buffalo Sabres, the Seattle Kraken, the Vancouver Canucks, the Calgary Flames, and the Edmonton Oilers. In terms of goalie ads that have good opponent records, we have Jacob Markstrom, who could be back this week. He's injured right now day to day. And then we also have Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who's been playing really good lately. I highly doubt Joey Decord or Stuart Skinner are available, but if they somehow are, they're great pickups for long term and also this week. On the flip side, we have the teams with the hardest opponent record. The Toronto Maple Leafs with a .727 opponent record. They play the Winnipeg Jets twice. Not the best for the Toronto Maple Leafs players. And then we have the Detroit Red Wings, the Winnipeg Jets, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Ottawa Senators. Moving on, we have the teams with the highest opponent goals against average. These teams are playing teams that let in a lot of goals, so the players on these teams could overperform. We have Seattle Kraken, Vancouver Canucks, Calgary Flames, New York Rangers, and the Edmonton Oilers. Then we have the teams with the lowest opponent goals against average. These teams are playing teams that generally don't let in a lot of goals, so the players on these teams could underperform. We have the Toronto Maple Leafs with a 2.16 opponent goals against average. They play the Winnipeg Jets twice, like I said earlier, very tough. And then we have the St. Louis Blues, the Colorado Avalanche, the Detroit Red Wings, and the Chicago Blackhawks. Now is the part of the video where I give you guys the streamers to help you maximize your games. The number one team, like I told you, the Los Angeles Kings, they have 4 games and 4 off nights for this week. Make sure you check your schedule to see which nights you have open roster spots on. But let's list this off, guys. Adrian Kempe, Kevin Fiala, Anze Kopitar, Trevor Moore, Drew Doughty, Philip Deneau, Quinton Byfield, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and Matt Roy. In terms of some deployment changes, we've seen Quinton Byfield get bumped down to the 3rd line. Not the greatest news for Byfield owners, but he's still on the 1st line power play, so still a solid option. We see Pierre-Luc Dubois. He's moved up to the 1st line. Maybe that can get him going. We'll see what happens. He could have a good week. In terms of goalies, David Rittich is stealing starts from Cam Talbot, so there is a chance that Rittich could get potentially 3 or 4 starts for this week. Please take a look at him and probably add him over Cam Talbot. Next up, we have streamers that have 4 games and 3 off nights this week. These are the players from the St. Louis Blues and the Florida Panthers. We have Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich. We got Sam Bennett, who is on the 1st line power play right now with Barkov out. Barkov is day-to-day, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But, regardless, Bennett's a great option. Brandon Montour, 1st line power play still. Buy low on Brandon Montour, guys. I've been saying it for quite a bit now. He's still getting great deployment and power play time, and he's taking a lot of shots, okay? Next, we got Braden Shen, Gustav Forsling, Justin Falk, Anton Lundell, who's on the 1st line power play right now with Barkov out. Could be a great option. Aaron Ekblad, Eetu Lisserainen, Colton Parayko, Jake Neighbors, who's on the 1st line power play, Evan Rodriguez, Torrey Krug, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Brandon Saad, and Kevin Hayes. Next up, we had the players on the Seattle Kraken. 3 games, 3 off nights, good opponent goals against average. definitely some solid options. We have Oliver Bjorkstrand, Jared McCann, Eli Tolvanen, Jordan Eberle, Jaden Schwartz, Alexander Wenberg, Adam Larson, Andre Burakovsky, and Justin Schultz. The Kraken run a split power play, which is why you're not seeing any of these players highlighted in yellow. But in general, some of these guys could have pretty good weeks. Next up, we got players at 4 games and 2 off nights this week. These are players on the Vegas Golden Knights, the Boston Bruins, and the Arizona Coyotes. We definitely have some underrated options on this list, so let me talk about it. We have Jonathan Marchessault. We got Charlie Coyle, first line power play, playing really good. Chandler Stevenson, first line power play with some key injuries on the Knights. We got Sean Durzi, Lawson Crouse, Alex Pietrangelo, Ivan Barbashev. We got Alex Kerfoot, no longer on the first line, but he's still on the first line power play. He's played pretty solid all year, so could be good. Jake DeBrusk, Pavel Zacha, Seth Jones. We got Dylan Guenther in the top 6 on the first line power play. Definitely a sneaky option, especially in a deeper league. We got Logan Cooley back on the first line power play, playing a little bit better. Pavel Doroveyev on the first line power play. We got Nick Bukestad, Matias Michelli, Nicholas Roy. Nick Bukestad, I think he's on the first line now with Clayton Keller. I could be wrong, but that's what Daily Faceoff says right now. We also have Nicholas Roy. He's in the top 6 with some of those key injuries. Could be a sneaky good option in a deeper league. We got Alec Martinez, moved up to the first line power play. We got Brady McNabb, amazing peripherals. We got JVR still in the first line power play. Doesn't have the best minutes though. We got Trent Frederick, Jason Zucker, Jason Dickinson, Philip Kurashev, and Morgan Geekie. Lastly, we have the teams that have 4 games and 1 off night for this week. I will say there's some sneaky good options here. Those 2 guys being Cole Sillinger and Igor Chainikov. But let me talk about it, guys. We got Boone Jenner, John Gaudreau, Cole Sillinger, and Igor Chainikov, both first line power play, taking a lot of shots, putting up a decent amount of points. Very low roster percentages, so could be great ads for this week. We got Adam Fantilli, Kirill Marchenko, Dmitry Voronkov, also playing really good on the first line power play. Ivan Provorov, Adam Boquist, who's on the first line power play with Zach Rowinski out. We got Jack Roslovich and Kent Johnson. I will say that with Boone Jenner back, they could change up this power play. I don't know what will happen, but for now, the players highlighted in yellow are on the first line power play. In terms of a goalie that you could add for the entire week, Elvis, 4 games, 1 off night, could be a solid option. They don't have the best opponent goals against average, but still, he could be a good pickup. Lastly, I wanted to give you 1 sell high player and 1 buy low player. The sell high player is Blake Coleman of the Calgary Flames. His shooting percentage is unsustainable. His production is unsustainable. I suggest you sell high. The buy low player, Brandon Montour. I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks. He's taking a ton of shots. He has a lot of shot attempts. He's still getting the same deployment, 23 minutes, 24 minutes a game. He's still on the first line power play, top 30 in power play time per game in the NHL. The points will come. The goals will come. Buy low on Brandon Montour. All right, guys, that's the end of the video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I will catch you in the next one.